and immediately render officers and citizen witnesses who testified or were prepared to testify and asked to relive the events of that horrific day. We are satisfied that this defendant has been held accountable for his actions. He now faces imprisonment of 6 consecutive life sentences plus 800. There is much healing ahead for the victims and for our community, but we hope today's result is a step further along that path. Remain strong, Waukesha. Thank you.
Waukesha Police Chief Dan Thompson.
Thank you. 2 days we'll never forget. November 21 of 2021, on that tragic day, and October 26th of 2022. Why October 26th? Because justice was served today. I want to say thank you and praises to this community. I want to say thank you in the resiliency and strength of the families and victims who were involved in this and were impacted by this event. The investigation team, I want to send a personal thank you to the District Attorney's Office, Sue Opper, Leslie, Zach, and everyone on that team who assisted in this successful prosecution. I want to say thank you to the jury and the court process, the court proceedings, and everyone that's involved in the court who found this defendant guilty, which is just and right. That defendant's actions did not define this great community. It refined us in our resolve and our strength in being Waukesha strong. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm David Sorensen. These are my 2 sons. Justice was served for my wife, Virginia Sorensen, my 3 children, and the whole Sorensen clan. Thank you very much to the people that did this court case. We appreciate it. Sean or Marshall wants to say one little thing.
We've been praying for this day for a long time, and this morning my 5-year-old daughter came up to me and handed me this necklace with my mom's ashes in it, and she told me to take my mom with us for the sentencing. So she was with us today, and I just want to thank everyone for what they did today. And one last thing, my mom always used to tell us when we were kids and our family that she always said, angels watch over you guys. So I just want to say angels watch over you guys and turn on those blue lights tonight.
Thank you.
I want to first thank the prosecution team. They were the one that got us to this point. I'm thankful for all their support along the way and getting us to this day. It's been a difficult day. I know that this will give us healing. This is another step forward in this process. We've been resilient all the way through. One of the things that I've said so much throughout this is that we're stronger than him, and it's been proven today. It's just another step forward in the process. So I want to thank Sue, Zach, Leslie, all those guys for their hard work, Jen and her staff, and especially those first responders that has been brought up. They are the ones that especially kept me here, gave us a second chance, and they've kept our community strong. So yeah, Waukesha strong. As Marshall said, he touched on it. Keep those blue lights on tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Just want to say that I'm very happy with the verdicts and that justice has been served today. I would just like to thank everybody, the first responders, the DA, and the judge, all the law enforcement, everybody who was involved, especially those who were
Yeah,
very
these are the
much
families.
involved with my family and the support system that we have had. It's been amazing to see how wonderful this community has been to pull together for all of those who were hurt that night.
Thank you. With that, we'll take a few questions. Those available for questions will be Chief Thompson and District Attorney Sue Opper. So I'll start right here, TMJ4. Who would you like to direct your question to? Sue, come on up.
Okay, thank you.
Chief.
We just gotta know, how are you and your team feeling right now about this happening?
Well, it's obviously quite satisfying that Mr. Brooks has been found guilty and held accountable for his actions. As many of these victims have said, this is a joyous day for that reason. It's also the point where we hope everyone can move on from. The support that we've gotten as this case wore on day after day was tremendous, and we're very relieved. I guess that's the best word, is relief.
Hillary?
I saw you get a tear in your eye when they were talking about Virginia's ashes. You spoke about
Yep.
what this meant to you and the victims. How do you begin to describe what it was like going up against Brooks as defending him, representing himself? Did that change your strategy? How did you get through all that?
Yeah. I mean, legally, it changed our strategy, certainly, because if there's an appeal, he can make a mistake in the courtroom and get a new trial. And we have to pay the price for that, we, the state, and we, the victims. So it's changed our strategy in that we had to make sure, and Judge Darrell did as well, the record was very thorough, very complete, and we didn't miss anything. But as far as handling the actual court proceedings, we felt very, very offended by his behavior, his disrespect of the court, the decorum, the families, his insulting the judge, his challenging the judge.
Absolutely.
That's not the way our system is designed. That was intentional on his part. We truly believe that. He did everything he can except claim that the dog ate his homework. And he tried to turn this into his story. Let's talk about Mr. Brooks and his family. And we just kept redirecting it back to the real focus here is our families, our victims, our community, and his responsibility for this destruction.
58.
What was the most challenging part, and how did you keep your patience through all of it?
Again, it wasn't a difficult case factually, and I don't mean to sound, overly confident in that, but this case was unique because the activity was videotaped, right? And so, whereas
Much like the Rittenhouse
most
trial.
cases, we have to rely on eyewitness accounts or other ways to prove the case, we had videograph evidence of his behavior all up and down that crime scene and throughout the neighborhood. So that way, it wasn't difficult. Again, the difficulty and the challenges we faced was what nonsense was going to come out of his mouth next. And we were anticipating much of what would come next and being ready legally with case law and legal authority to be able to respond to that. So I think that was the hardest thing. The investigation was so thorough, so well done that we knew the facts were solid. It was just making sure the record and the presentation was done legally accurate.
We'll do Fox Local.
So what went into your decision to perhaps minimize the number of direct witnesses that went up on that stand? And I wonder, did you expect any of these antics if that went into your decision?
Yes, it did. So obviously we didn't know until very late that he'd be representing himself. But we as a team set out from day one, and this was months and months ago when he still had attorneys, we vowed we would not put children on the stand. Absolutely. It wasn't necessary. Again, there were plenty of other ways to tell this story without asking a child to testify in a courtroom and relive this very, very extreme tragic situation. So that was a commitment we made as a team months ago, and we stuck by that. Certainly, as we learned his antics, we reevaluated and we would discuss it every night as a team is who are we going to use tomorrow? And do we really need this person? Because we were so, again, not personally offended, but professionally offended that he would insult the process and insult the victims, accuse them of financial gain for their testimony, things like that. It was just so offensive that we definitely were conscious of that in our decision making and how can we minimize this for the best of everyone, but still provide a compelling story. So yes, it did definitely play a factor.
Court TV.
Ms. Offer, there were so many victims' families inside the courtroom every day, sitting behind you.
Mhm.
How much did that motivate you and your team and how you present your evidence and your closing argument? You mentioned them, and have you been able to speak to any of them that aren't here that may make sense to you afterwards?
Yes.
How do you feel the family's presence
The
motivated you?
motivation we received from those families was tremendous. And we knew, again, from the point when Mr. Brooks chose to represent himself, this was going to be a marathon. We talked about that many times as a team, that we just need to keep moving forward every day, whatever that looked like. But what motivated us was these families that are behind me, a lot of them. And we thought of those mothers and fathers sitting in hospital rooms with their children and the ongoing care that they're still physically healing from and certainly emotionally healing from. And that motivated us tremendously. But you couldn't meet a nicer group of people. I mean, that's the thing is I'm not surprised, having lived in Waukesha for 35 years, that they're good people here. And they would ask us, how are you doing? Do you guys need anything? Which was really phenomenal. They were a tremendous group of people to work for. And it was our honor to represent them and be a voice for them in the court.
Andrew Graham was next to you. Yesterday it seemed you threw Darrell Brooks a little bit of a lifeline when it came to presenting his closing argument. It seemed that the judge was going to kind of forfeit his right to do that. What made you go that route to allow him and then just object to what he was saying?
That was strategic for the appeal, to be very blunt. I wasn't throwing a lifeline to Mr. Brooks. I really had no interest in hearing what he had to say because I heard all of his lies and stories so far. So that was just trying to do what was legally required at the moment. And I frankly wasn't sure it was going to work because he was so difficult with Judge Darrell. But in the end, it did work. He got to blurt out what he wanted to blurt. And then the judge struck that from the record and we were able to move on. So I was glad that that was the result, but we talked about it at the prosecution table and came up with that idea of let's offer this again, just to protect the record for the appeal.
Jim.
What caught you by surprise?
Again, his absolute disrespect and dishonor to the victims, the community, and the court process.
I can't turn the volume up any louder.
From the Freeman and then two more for.
They're back in the
CBS.
room, so they're not able to. They don't have amplified sound that goes into this. They only have the one microphone here.
Andrew with the last two, so go Brian, you got one.
There's been some discussion, it seems to be making announced that perhaps the decision to represent himself is grounds for appeal. Are you concerned at all about that?
Well, Mr. Brooks has a right to an appeal. Every defendant
He decided.
does.
Did he
I
decide
fully
to
expect him
represent
take
himself for the
advantage
appeal
of his
process?
rights as a convicted defendant in this case. I am very confident in the record that Judge Darrell made and his decision to represent himself. Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marcel, CBS News. What do you think about the length of time that the jury took to deliberate? Short, long, were you surprised?
We were not. We talked about it last night, and frankly, I know a lot of you were here too. We were all, by the time we got to that 8 o'clock mark, we were exhausted. And when they said they wanted to go home and rest, we were thankful, quite frankly, because we all felt the same way. It's such an emotionally draining day. And to get through all that and the nonstop banter from Mr. Brooks, it's taxing. You all witnessed it yourself. So we were grateful. We thought they gave it good thought because they went out around 6:30. Their dinner was there immediately, right? So Jurors are human beings. They get a nice meal, they got a little time to talk, and then they decided, let's rest, let's sleep on it. Always a good option for decision making for anybody, right? Get a good night's sleep on it, and come back the next day. And then, they worked again for about another hour this morning. And with the quality of the investigation in this case, we think the verdict was fair. The timing was spot on.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of people who are here today, of course, but a lot of people who are also at the parade on the day of the parade who aren't here. In closing, what do you want to say to them just at the end of this process?
Well, I hope some of you caught the flavor of that. You cannot imagine until you saw some of those videos how horrific it would have been to stand there and watch that, especially when your children, and some of these witnesses testified to that, they couldn't find their children, right? And that's not just people who were struck. That there was many citizens who could not find their own child for a period of time. So just unbelievable. But once the car went through and everybody had that initial, the way the citizens of this community punched in, there's no other word for it. The nurses, the doctors, the EMTs, the paramedics, anybody who knew anything about how to apply a Band-Aid walked into that street and treated those people. So that was another source of strength for us, right? Is if they could do that, we can get through this.
As we move on to the next phases of the judicial process, I'm sure that people will be readily available to provide comment as we get into, we have a court hearing on Monday at 1 o'clock, I believe, for scheduling. And I think then we're going to go into the sentencing phase, and we'll know more about that. People here behind me will make themselves available for you, I'm pretty much sure, as this goes on. But as of right now, we're going to end it and allow people to be with their families. And definitely this prosecution team needs some much needed rest and some time away from this courthouse. So thank you all very much for being here today.
Thank you guys.
If we could make a line so I can allow these people, thank you. It was more so at your camera. Hey, Tim, can you walk them out? You guys just follow Deputy Whitstone right here. What's that? Marshall? Yeah.
So there we have it. We got a chance to hear from some of the victims' families. We had a chance to a little bit of the Q&A of people that were curious about, the prosecution and how they went about. I apologize. It was quiet, guys. It was on their end. I can only turn up the volume of the broadcast so loud, and then that's the max. So. But the the DA did their part, and they were just making it clear that this dog is just chilling. He's just like, well, this is my moment, and he's gone now. So the DA, some of the questions they asked were, do you feel that he represented himself so he could go for the appeal? Obviously, yeah, we all knew he was working for an appeal. That was it. We definitely, they said that, was it difficult? And one of the things they said was exactly what we all knew, which is that the DA had to be flawless in their case. They had to be super stringent about how they handled things. They had to be, not that you aren't when you're in a court of law, when you have anybody that's executing the laws of the land. Kellyanne, the 76, 77 charges. I didn't realize they dropped one of the battery charges, so down to 76. But when you're in a court of law, you expect the professionals of that system, that court, to do their job to the full extent of their ability, and not to waver or sway based off of their personal views of what's happening. That's their job to be the best at what they can do. So that being said, they had the burden of responsibility, as it's worded, is on the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Darrell Brooks was guilty of the crimes that they had laid out in front of him, which, as we saw and continue to see, were, put in the comments, we had 6 counts of first degree intentional homicide, guilty on all charges, 61 counts of recklessly endangering safety, guilty on all charges, 6 counts of hit and run involving death, guilty on all charges, 2 counts of felony bail jumping, guilty, and 1 count of battery, guilty. So, but they had to make sure that everything stuck. That was their burden of responsibility. Where Darrell Brooks could be as sloppy and cavalier and loose as he wanted, which we saw through the entire case. We saw just how amazingly, and I can't even look. Sorry, I'm looking up and there's like my monitor here has just got this big ass picture of Darrell Brooks, and I want to punch a hole in the screen. Don't do that. I'm not going to let him cost me money. Not happening. I held out all morning to drink some coffee. Had it brewed, was waiting, and then we got wrapped into the case and couldn't step away. But yeah, so he had the opportunity to play with his defense as much as he wanted, and he did. He did the song and dance. The Darrell Brooks shuck and jive. I don't think I'm allowed to say that anymore. I don't know. Someone said that it was probably a term you're not supposed to use, but his song and dance. He was out there gliding around, doing what he had to do to try to pull himself into a position where he felt like he was, in some way, I think, winning this trial. And I honestly, in the comments here, feel free to let me know your thoughts. If he felt, do you think Darrell Brooks was surprised by the verdict, by all of the verdicts? Because what we saw from Darrell Brooks was him and his hands down. Someone said, you guys, I was really trying to maintain my composure during the reading of the sentencing or of the verdict. And so I kind of just shut up and let it go for all 76 charges. But you guys had, if you guys were in here, there were some comments that came through that I was like, ugh, if I wasn't so emotional right now, I'd be laughing my ass off because you guys were killing it with with some of the commentary about Darrell Brooks, which I appreciate because I've been heavy with it the entire time we've been following this case. Everything down to some of the photos and some of the other things that we've been able to look at, which we're gonna take a look at some of those right now. The first one that I loved was the box fort, which was his fort room, as I like to call it. When he got sent to timeout, he'd have to go over to his fort room and hang out and be as upset as he wants to be over there. But just what a clown, and then we have these moments right here where he would give the judge the daggers, the evil eyes, his box fort, yeah, box court, as we're going to call it. It was his fort room and box fort. This is when the judge actually stopped the trial and dismissed herself because she felt scared, as she worded it, by Darrell Brooks in this moment. He didn't get his way. He was pouting about it. And yeah. And so he, gave her the daggers here. Tell me this isn't, I did this before, but tell me this. Give it to me. Come on, people. Give me some feedback here. That's not a far miss. That's not a far miss. Some of the other moments we had in here were, there's plenty of them. This was, and then you went from this tough guy to this guy during his opening statement, which was sad. Like, you guys have the opportunity, it's in your hands. He keeps saying it's in your hands. And then in his closing argument, and I know we've watched that once or twice. We haven't watched it all the way through. I would love to watch it again, like the last part. He went through his closing argument, you guys. This guy, if you weren't watching with us, his closing argument was a diatribe of blaming, first things first, the car. He said Ford Escape was a recall, and those things have a throttle body that'll make the car drive itself. So it's the car that did the things. The car drove itself through the crowd. That was first. The second thing he did was he climbed on the DA and said that the problem that one of the things that's made him sick is that no one's talking about the victims The DA is not even giving them any attention. All they're thinking about is who this Darrell Brooks guy is and who this guy is. They don't give any concern. They don't have any care for the victims. Well, that was the moment I was about. I mean, all I could do was sit back and try my best not to scream wild obscenities at the screen here. And then he moved on to put it on God. He said, I guess we'll never know why this was God's will to happen. And I mean, that blew my mind. He said, basically, I was an instrument of God, and I did this because it's what he willed to happen. I was like, dude, the more he spoke, and here's the thing, they found him competent to stand trial. The more he spoke, and the further we got into Darrell Brooksisms, the crazier he did sound. But it wasn't because he was crazy. It's just because he's an asshole. He's just an asshole. Just at the end of the day, an asshole. To quote, and this is the thoughts that I think most of us were having, but to quote the courtroom outburst, burn in hell, you piece of shit. That's what the man from the gallery said before he was removed from the courtroom. So that answers our question. Will you get brought up on charges for saying something? No, but you will get kicked out. I really wish. If I could go back to yesterday, I absolutely would have been in the courtroom today, just so that I could have given him my thoughts in a quick moment that all of us have collectively been thinking. It'd have been great. I wouldn't have mind getting kicked out. Do you have a video of his mom talking? Sue, do you mean when she was talking about him not being a bad boy and how she wishes she hadn't bailed him out of jail, and but that he, she's telling him he shouldn't. She shouldn't. These are interviews they had with her before the trial. She didn't testify, but as we all know from Darrell Brooks, if he'd have told her to show up, she'd have done what she's told to do, as he said it. You don't got to worry about that. If I tell her to be here, she'll be here. She does what she's told. Wow. There's another little glimpse, little red flag about your views of women. Just saying. Subject matter jurisdiction, you guys, to the end. I have some pictures here. I'll show you. This was, and give me a minute here to pull this up because it's, I have to pull them off of the, actually I might be able to just jump into, are these all them right here? Yeah. Okay, now we're going to do this. So this guy, this blew my mind that he was just, as Judge Schroeder would say, as brazen as you could possibly be. Let me, okay, this is from earlier today when they started reading the verdict. You know what? I'm going to show you guys this real quick while I pull up these pics. This was Darrell Brooks when they initially were getting ready to read the verdict. The judge was organizing her paperwork, getting everything dialed in. I don't believe Darrell. He's allowed to make a statement. I think that that's a good question. I'd be curious to find out. Maybe I can get in on a quick phone call. If Luai, if you're watching right now from Houston, our attorney friend, yeah, he's a grandpa now, you guys. Darrell Brooks is a grandpa. But if you also, Veronica's saying yes, he will. If you're watching, I'd love for you to shoot me a line. Actually, can't do that. My phone's dead. Yeah, well, oh no, it's not. I lied. But it does only have like 1% battery life. So, but here's when this is hopefully they have the camera on him right when they started reading the charges. But this was, I'm going to give you guys a look at that real quick. Yeah, I apologize for the sound of the ocean in the background here, but there's a lot of stuff being pumped through the there we go. Getting pumped through the system here, and so it gets things pretty hot. I apologize because I know it's kind of loud, and that's also due in part to the fact that I've been traveling a lot from Washington to Wisconsin and back and forth, and so some of the stuff that I would normally be streaming with is back in the studio in Washington. So, but this was Darrell Brooks at the time of his sentencing, and the subject matter jurisdiction is something that I'm going to put a star in that one because I want to bring that back up here in a minute. But this was, yeah, like I said, Darrell Brooks when they first were starting to read the verdict. So.
That I have confirmed that there are 76 signed verdicts and 76 unsigned verdicts. Which would be what I would expect. Right, I will read each one into the record. We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide
And
as
right
charged
there.
in count 1 of the information. Dated this 26th day of October 2022, signed by the foreperson, juror number 11. If you find the defendant guilty of first-degree intentional.
That moment. That's the straightest eyes we've seen him have since the beginning. That's that moment where he realizes, like, okay, well, if one of those is going to stick, they're all going to stick. And I think that's where it was exciting for all of us to see that, because that's the moment when we knew, good, this is going the right way. If they're going to hit him for, if nothing else hit, if none of the other charges went through, if they only got him, and I say only, that's a loose term to use, or word. If it had only been the first degree intentional homicide with a deadly weapon, those carry up to a life sentence. And with his felony background, that counts. That comes down to a count point. And this is how the judge is going to have to go through sentencing. She's going to have to judge things or look at her the felony count that he has, which is a point system, and then that goes into the scale, right? Maybe I can pull one up, and it showcases like how many felony points you have, and then what the sentencing range is for this crime, and then they put that on this scale, and they figure out like a graph where you would hit in your high and low points for each crime. Well, for 76 of them, that's where he's at. And so she's going to have to go through and look at the charges for all those. She can just say, because in this one, life is the max. And that's where, this for 6, murder charges, which is where he's now. Darrell Brooks, make no mistake, is now a mass murderer. And I had to be very, it was kind of in between at that point. Mind you, I'm showing you previous recorded footage of him getting his verdict read. So if anyone thinks that we're missing anything right now, we're not. So yeah, the title might be a little misleading, but that was what we started off. But the end of the day, sorry, you guys threw me off there. The judge is going to, she can't just say, hey, mass murder. Or no, I said mass murder. That's what it was, an alleged mass murder until now. You're right. Now he's been found guilty of first degree intentional homicide with a deadly weapon. He could have, just as in that same breath, that charge carries with it that same title as if you were to stab someone, to death, or if you were to shoot someone to death, or choke someone to death, or do anything else. If you murder somebody, that's the same charge that comes across the board, first degree intentional homicide with a deadly weapon. Maybe not choking someone, because that would be just using your bare hands, but I've been told these things are weapons. Careful. Consecutive or concurrent. I think that's up to the judge too, if they're going to hold. And consecutive is if they're going to have 6 life sentences held concurrent, or his charges would be held concurrent. Like you have 20 years here, 15 years here, 30 years there, 50 years here, all that. But they're going to run concurrent, so they all overlap. So every year you spend is a year chipped off of all of the charges or all of the sentencing. But consecutive, that's back to back. Once you get done with one charge, like let's say you get that 20 years locked out, good job, you survived prison for 20 years, you're not going anywhere. Now you're gonna do the 35. Well, you did that 35, 55 years in prison, good job, you survived that. Well played. Now you got another 40 years you're gonna do for this charge. That's the consecutive. They stack them up on the back end. So he doesn't go anywhere. But when you're looking at 6 life sentences, yeah, you're consecutive, concurrent, you're in prison for life, which will probably be a short-term run for this guy, because he's just a raging garbage bag of a human being. So, and he's a child rapist and now a mass murderer, and he's going to be spending his time in prison in the state that he murdered these people in. So really, the chances of him having any kind of like prison comfort is mind you, there is some that'll happen regardless. He'll have some level of dignity, I guess you could say. They're not going to put him in like a 4x4 concrete room where he can't stand or sit, with a hole in the ground to defecate in with a bowl of ghoul, that he's going to have to eat. He's going to have a normal prison life, and he'll have the ability to get commissary and get visits and do prison things. But what we can look forward to, though, on the back end of that is that the prisoners are going to look at this guy and they're going to see him for what he is. Prisoners, you guys appreciate, like inmates they're not idiots. They're not dumb. They're no different than any of us. They just had a lot of time. For those that have had a lot of time, they've had time to see the inside of things. And there's a certain political structure, the prison politics that exist. Whether or not you're going to politic or not, when you get to prison, they exist around you regardless. And one of the nonstops, one of the forever and always, no matter what, is if you're in there for crimes against a child or crimes against like rape charges, if you got rape or anything against a child, you're on the list. You're 100% on the list. You're a target for every group because you're now expendable. You're on the list. You're not going through general population. You're not going to be any of these things. This guy raped a child and killed a child. There's nothing about his life in prison that's going to give him any kind of like peace or ease. He's going to be forever and always looking right over his shoulder. And it's probably going to be at some other guy just standing there, letting him know how much he cares. Sorry, maybe out of taste, but it is what it is. But regardless, he's on the list in prison, and I would love to bring in someone. If you have done, so Roma Smith here we go. Boom. 6 life sentences, 180 years, then 850 years for the other charges. More charges than an electric car charging station. Boom. I see what you did there. I read it, then I put together. But yeah, so you're looking at basically over 1,000 years in charges plus 6 life sentences. I knew a guy who got 345 years, and I was like, that's insane. 345 years. How does someone get 345 years? And now I understand how, because the charges that stack up. And that gentleman had an opportunity to take a plea. He had just done 7 years on a 10-year sentence, and from the time he was 18, so he was 25. He turned down the plea thinking he was going to beat the charges. And so what they did was they stacked everything with enhancements, and then they tried him for everything. So they took away the plea and said, all right, we're going to go for everything and enhancements. And he got hit with everything, and everything had a gun enhancement or I don't even know what all the enhancements, but he definitely, and 350 years. But and they offered him, I think they offered him 15, so he would have done 10 years on that in state, unless you're doing federal time. The way federal prisons work is if you get federal crimes, you get federal time. And federal time is straight time. You don't get good behavior, you do your time. If you get 20 years in federal prison, you're doing 20 years. Where in the state prisons, most of them are the same. I'm not sure if it's everywhere. in all prisons in all states, but Washington and the ones that I'm aware of, they have your good time. So you do a third, you have a third off. It's like a credit card. So you do 2/3 of your time. So let's say you had 15 years, right? You would do 10 years, you got 5 years, basically suspended 5 years. But that's, so you're held back for 5 years. So you get out and now you've got this 5 years looming. So they can always, if they choose, pop you for that and have you go back for the 5 years. So it's almost like they keep you on a tight leash. Instead of having you do your full time, done with that crime, you're done. You have 5 years, and now they've got that third that they can hang over your head, or they can revoke that. They have it as a they have an opportunity to kind of play with that a little bit. So Darrell Brooks here is looking at something that's not going to allow him that he's not going to be privy to that opportunity with 1,000 years plus life sentences. I don't know what the parole status is, Lisa, in Wisconsin. He will definitely be given life without the opportunity of parole. With 6 counts of murder, there's no chance that they're going to give him I mean, there's no chance. But I'm not sure, to answer your question, if there is parole. Anyone in the comments could throw that in if parole is a possibility in the state of Wisconsin. I'm not sure. But you guys, so let me show you these real quick. This was, I appreciate my team for being great about sending in these pics. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to share a screen here with you. This is, and then we'll come back in so you can. Well, we already know how this is.
Potential homicide. Answer the following question: yes or no. Did the defendant commit first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Answer: yes. We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 2 of the information. Did the defendant commit first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous
there's where
weapon?
it sets in.
Answer: yes.
Burn in hell, you piece of shit.
Hey, you are to be removed right now. You will not.
That was the outburst that we heard. I didn't realize it was so soon, but yeah, right afterwards. This is when the if you guys listen, this was what we were all thinking. Maybe not in that to that exact form, but we all wanted to say something in our own variation of what this guy says. But
Commit first-degree intentional homicide while using a dangerous weapon? Answer: yes.
Burn in hell, you piece of shit.
Hey, you are to be removed right now. You will not do that.
yeah, so no parole.
We, the
with 6
jury,
life sentences.
find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
So I think right there, okay, he heard someone from behind him, someone from the, from the bullpen, whatever they refer to. I keep forgetting words, from the observation deck, if you will. So thank you, Facebook user. So parole is an option in Wisconsin, apparently. So, Lindsay, I don't think you get it. Are you telling me to stop talking? I think you got it confused as to how this works. So, the galley, thank you, the galley. So earlier when they were reading him his yeah, well, I'll definitely sound clip that one for you guys, or anyone on squad, if you guys want to sound clip that and send it to me. Just to have it, I think it's important. Lindsay, okay, well, Lindsay, you're welcome to go anywhere else. We apparently don't understand what we're doing here. So, but he goes from this. This is when I think he realized that he's not the fun, swaggered out, entertaining, jovial guy. Lindsay, okay, Lindsay, here you go. Let's do this for you. I'm going to go ahead and give you a chance to go view court elsewhere. So, see ya. Sorry, guys, I don't have patience for people who don't seem to figure out how this world works here. So the way that he thought he was presenting himself was as this like, hey, how you doing? I'm Darrell Brooks. He's all smiley, making these loud gestures and being, as smooth as he thought he was being. And then let me show you here. So this is the realization, I think, right here, this face of who he is and what's going to happen to him. And if you, and I'll show you here, this was him on, just as they wrapped court yesterday. If you guys left early, this was him joking with the judge, which I didn't fully understand how he was feeling so cavalier about his presence here. So this was him laughing, saying like, "Well, judge, you already know what I'm going to say," like when she came back into the court, and she was like, "Okay, here we go," and he was like, I'm gonna do it," and he was laughing about bringing up subject matter jurisdiction, but he was thinking it was funny. Man, dude, this is the end of the day yesterday. The jury's out; they're deliberating. And so he's back behind his little computer screen, just having a little laugh. And look at the guy behind him. That dude behind him is just like, the fuck is wrong with you, man? How are you laughing right now? How are you finding this entertaining? You tell that guy looks like the bad guy in every Bruce Willis movie. Like he looks like he has a thick German accent and knows karate of some type of higher form, and would drop kick Darrell's head right off his little teeny shoulders. And he also looks like he's about to do it. He also kind of looks like a ski instructor from like an 80s movie. But either way, the dude looks tough, and I'm pretty sure he would demolish Darrell Brooks with that eye look, that look he's giving him, and then the look Darrell Brooks is giving the judge now. And I'm talking, yes, this is the look he's giving the judge after they've already said, "Hey, the verdict is going out." The judge, like, and you think that this is a man who feels like supreme confidence almost from this guy who's getting pissed off when he doesn't get his way. And then you got this guy who I think really feels in the back of his head like, man, that went really well. I feel good. This really, I think this, I think that's where we're at. I think I did a good job with this one. Okay, good job. And yeah, but then the harsh reality of life. These are the smiles. Him and his Bible, the book, not a book, as he corrected the judge. While they were wrapping court yesterday. And yeah, as Tanisha says there, your Hail Mary didn't work. And the little giggly expression on his face here, that like trying to be like he's almost flirting with the judge at this point, thinking it's funny, thinking he's Billy Swagger from this guy. And this is the guy that started it off when he decided that he was going to fall asleep in court when they first started pretrial. And this freaking guy right here. I'll take this guy over that guy any day of the week. My boy here snoring away, just being as patient as possible over this fool. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? What are you going to do? So that's Darrell Brooks and the evolution of Darrell Brooks, or whatever he wanted to be going by at the end of it all. He thought he was slick, man. He thought he was slick. He really felt like he was beating the system. And in the comments, I'm curious, how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like Darrell Brooks thought he was actually beating the system? Like, do you think he thought he was winning? Because there was times when he was seemingly like verbose in his confidence. Like he was just almost laughing about it. But when it came right down to it, we're watching the same trial that he's watching, and the fact that he's not processing the information that's coming across and that we're all seeing, the evidence, the mounds of evidence, the eyewitnesses, the victims that are there, identifying him. You, Darrell Brooks, you are the one that drove the car. You, Darrell Brooks, are the one that I saw getting out of the car. You, Darrell Brooks, no matter how many times you object to being called that, your name's your name, pal. And then he was bringing up the maritime court and all the sovereign things. I'm going to show you guys this quick little clip here. And this was Illinois versus Allen. I played this it's a kind of little cartoon clip, but it actually explains a lot of what kept coming up. The judge kept quoting Illinois versus Allen. And what Illinois versus Allen, well, here, I'll let this little video explain Illinois versus Allen to you, because it did help better understand what she was talking about. And this came down to him being removed from the courtroom multiple times because he kept getting thrown into his box for it because he couldn't seem to figure out how to not be a hemorrhoid. So he would get removed, thrown into his box fort, and or his little fort room, if you will. And and then he'd come back, and that dance, the dance of the boxes, was going on every day for the last week and a half. It just was nauseating to be like, all right. Even he at one point said, I'm tired of carrying these boxes back and forth. And he asked the beta, he's like, aren't you tired of doing it too? Everyone was like, yeah, we all are. So shut the hell up and behave, remain calm, do what you have to do. If you feel so swagged out about your court case here, stop being a prick, because you're just making yourself look really, 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 really scared. And no matter how much he thought he was looking like he was in charge of the world, it was pretty obvious to me that he was just he had no plan. All he was doing was reading reports and then asking questions about the reports. And then every time he'd get to a point, he would do that whole, oh, wait a minute. Let me ask you, do you have socks on your feet? Do you wear them daily? Okay. Is it fair to say, to the best of your knowledge, that socks will keep your toes warm? Okay. And you're kind of like, what am I watching right now? What am I seeing? Like, what am I hearing this guy in this moment ask? Like, why, like, have you ever used Velcro shoes? Oh, you have? Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then you do the whole, well, and then he would get angry at the defense or at the prosecution. He would pop off at prosecution by saying things like, I don't appreciate that they're over there laughing and giggling. It's disrespectful to me. They're talking under their breath. They keep covering the microphone and having conversations. And he was legit like trying to make it like the judge is going to scold the prosecution. Like, hey, you guys, can you really come on. You're hurting his feelings. And it's crazy that he was, he just was crazy. And so his whole thing, though, you guys, he's okay. So here's something before I show you this little now clip. One of the things that we talked about with our attorney friend yesterday was civil suits. How there's going to be, every single one of the people that were affected by his attack can file civil suits, right, and sue him. The issue, she said, was going to be the issue of cost and finance and fees. So an attorney is going to charge you up front. Hey, the chances of you bleeding this turnip, even though someone else is probably going to bleed him, are slim to none. You're not going to get anything out of him. So I'm going to have to charge you up front. So you're going to pay me to go ahead and file civil charges against him, take him to civil court, and then, get a guilty verdict or get, a verdict in your favor, however you want to word it, and, sue him for, millions and millions, whatever it is. He's got no money, so what's that going to do? But much like OJ, he was pushing so hard. Did you happen to see? Yeah, the nice Chrissy. I showed the video multiple times. I'll show it to you again, actually. Let me pin that one as well. But he was pushing so hard that to make sure that the court date had all of its televised options, like there was nothing missed. So when, like I've said this before, when the tornado or the tornado touched down out here in eastern Wisconsin in the Kenosha area, Pleasant Prairie, and kind of moved through there, the judge said, hey, we're going to end court early. People need to go check on their homes, make sure everyone's safe, which is crazy. Every time I'm out here, I've seen extreme weather that it's either colder than I've ever experienced in my life. I don't know how y'all do it out here in Wisconsin. It's crazy. Or it's like extreme, like tornado storm weather, and have lightning, and it just feels like apocalyptic a lot of the time. So she said, hey, if you need to go home and check on your families, do what you have to do, go ahead. Darrell, Mr. Brooks, which he would respond to when it was something he wanted to talk about. He would never actually, I don't want to be called that name. I don't consent to being called that name, nor do I identify as that, or know anybody who is called Darrell Brooks. Blah. Is there anybody else that how do you feel about ending court early? His argument, and I said this before, was, I agree with you, Judge. The tornado might affect our equipment, and that equipment that would help televise the case, and so we should make sure we stop so that doesn't happen. And then he followed up, and I also have some family I need to maybe check on too. His primary concern was making sure that it was televised, and I had to wonder. That made me wonder, like, why does he care? Why would he want this televised? He's all about the publicity of it. He wants the glam of it all. He wants to be the man right now. He wants to showcase that he's a, self-represented like Don of the courtroom. And in some back of his brain, I'm sure he's like, man, the daytime movie they're going to make about Darrell Brooks, I'm going to get paid I'm gonna have so much top ramen in prison. It's gonna be amazing. Eating pickles and canned fish for the rest of my life. Lucky me. Um, and I would almost hope it's a real bittersweet thing that if somebody does give this guy the go ahead and makes a movie about him, which I would hope that nobody even gives him the time of day about this. But if they do, any of those proceeds from that movie, now then in civil court, these people can sue and get those proceeds. If there's a book that he writes, they can go right after the book, any proceeds from the book. So yeah, there is that. So it's almost bittersweet. Like if he did, great. I hope it does really well and showcases him as being a real raging piece of crap. But then these people can get some financial compensation out of it. Or we hope it tanks, doesn't go anywhere, and dies on the vine. And kind of like I guess even Jeffrey Dahmer's dad like tried to put out a book, but I guess it didn't do well at all. Who knows? But yeah, I do have the old video of him while he's incarcerated doing this documentary called Crystal Darkness. Yeah, so let me see what I'm trying. I got a comment here that says, "Hi, I love your take on my state. It makes me proud to live here. You've adopted us and managed to names. I'm getting close, Amber. I'm getting better at the names in Wisconsin. Muckawagan or what? Yeah, there's a couple that have come through that I'm like, I can't do it. But this is the explanation of what Illinois versus Allen was, which is what the judge kept quoting every time she boot him out.
A criminal defendant has a right to be present during his trial under the Sixth Amendment's Confrontation Clause. But may a trial court remove the defendant from the courtroom and continue with the trial in his absence if he repeatedly engages in disruptive behavior? The United States Supreme Court addressed this issue in Illinois versus Allen. William Allen was charged in state court with armed robbery. The trial court granted Allen's request to represent himself, but appointed standby counsel. During jury selection, after Allen began arguing with the judge in a highly disrespectful manner, the judge asked standby counsel to proceed with the voir dire. Allen responded with a death threat to the judge. He also ripped standby counsel's file in half and threw the torn papers on the floor.
Which Darrell Brooks did the same thing.
The judge warned Allen that if he engaged in any more disruptive behavior, he would be removed from the courtroom and the trial would continue in his absence. Undeterred by the judge's warning, Allen declared his intention to continue being disruptive and made more disrespectful comments to the judge. The judge then ordered Allen's removal and the jury selection proceeded in his absence. After the jury was empaneled, the judge advised Allen that he could return for the trial if he stopped being disruptive. Allen returned to the courtroom, but he soon angrily announced his intention to talk throughout the trial. The judge again ordered Allen's removal from the courtroom. After the prosecution rested its case in chief, the judge again told Allen that he could return to the courtroom if he behaved. Allen returned for the defense's case, which was conducted by the standby counsel. The jury convicted Allen. On Allen's direct appeal, the Illinois Supreme Court affirmed his conviction. Thereafter, Allen filed a federal habeas corpus petition challenging his conviction on the ground that the trial court's removal of him from the courtroom had violated the Sixth Amendment's Confrontation Clause. The federal district court denied the petition. The United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit reversed the district court's judgment, ruling that the constitutional right to be present during trial is absolute. The Court of Appeals held that the only recourse for a trial court is to restrain a disruptive defendant with shackles and a gag. The state successfully petitioned the United States Supreme Court to review Allen's case.
All right. So that's Illinois versus Allen. A little bit of an explanation as to why that was. In Kelly Bradbury, that's like almost play by play exactly what happened with Darrell Brooks. And that's why they do these precedent setting situations where they can recite Illinois versus Allen. The one thing he did say was, are you allowed to mute me? In Illinois versus Allen. And this is where you have to wonder, as he's getting this information and having people send him info or coach him in some way, they're telling him these things. Hey man, you should ask. You know, in Illinois, we're saying, were they allowed to gag him? Were they allowed to do this? Were they allowed to do that? And playing off of these, you know, these cues that he's getting from other people. But you know, obviously that didn't work out for him. So good on him for thinking he had a chance. This is I just want to show you guys this real quick. This is the Facebook page for the Dancing Grannies, who were, you know, obviously radically affected by Darrell Brooks and driving through it. And the statement that they made therein is right here. It says the Milwaukee Dance, this is an hour ago, it says Milwaukee Dancing Grannies are working on a statement regarding the outcome of the trial. We hope to have it posted by this evening. We need time to take this all in, process, grieve, and regroup. This has been a long emotional road. Wounds have been reopened. As there is a fraction of relief, trauma is still real. Hopefully later this evening or within the next few days, we will have better thoughts. Time is needed to continue to heal while never forgetting. That's the Dancing Grannies, Milwaukee Dancing Grannies. Yeah, then they were, like I said, they were dancing in the parade. In a parade much like this, you know, where there's I mean, look, this is the structure from a year ago that we saw with, you know, with Darrell Brooks. So the honking of that horn is their, I think, a follow vehicle or another horn. So even when Darrell Brooks like, well, didn't you hear a horn honking? To even think that that's something that made me jump when I heard that, because it made me you know, jump into what video we're watching right now. But you know, this is from October 16th, just, you know, about a week and a half ago. You know, when they were at a different parade, apparently. But yeah, so you know that you know, you heard a horn, why didn't you move? Type thing. Well, you're in a parade, you asshat. So those are the Dancing Grannies. You know that, and so a big heartfelt shout out goes to them, and you know, all of our love, because I know that they also lost a member of their dance troupe, and let me go ahead and pull this up for you. So these are the victims of the dance of you know, Darrell Brooks, man. Yeah. Someone asked if anyone's talked to Darrell Brooks Sr. Not that I know of. I haven't seen him show up anywhere in comments or in any feeds or any kind of other news, you know, news articles or anything. Yeah, they lost 3 members of their group. It's terrible. It's going to be hard. I know PTSD is. I didn't even know. I hadn't really thought about PTSD until after I'd been streaming for about a year, and someone pointed it out to me. We were walking down the street, and somebody went to throw a empty can, like an energy drink can, into a garbage can by me. It was a Red Bull can. I remember it very well because it was like slow motion. A Red Bull can into a garbage can, missed, and it hit the ground by me. And immediately I jumped and kind of hid, like went like covered up and kind of leaned into this pole that was by me. And the person that I was with kind of laughed. They're like, "What is that all about? What are you doing, man?" And I didn't realize what I was doing at the moment. I was like, "Well, oh, oh, it's this sound." And it clicked. The muscle memory in me was to jump and move. But the sound of the metal hitting the ground, that tink, 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 was exactly the sound it makes when a flashbang grenade gets thrown out and before it explodes. Also, the canisters of tear gas, when they would come out and hit the ground, they make that tink, 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 that skipping metal sound before they. And I've been hit by so many rounds over the course of, like, you know, that year that I was already kind of like jumpy whenever I'd hear that that little tink, because I would be doing a report and all of a sudden, boom, there'd be like a 9-banger, these things where they just boom, 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 they start blowing up on you. And I got hit multiple times by those. I'm sure I had, I don't even get into it, but so that for me, I realized was like little triggers of PTSD. I can't imagine having been in this situation where that's a very specific like thing, right? This is like you have to deal with uh, vehicles driving, a horn honking, even just being around a mass group of people and wondering where is everybody, where's everybody going? We were at Six Flags the other day at the Fright Fest, uh, and it tripped me out because we were leaving as they were kind of getting ready to start if you've never been to Six Flags, they do like the haunted houses and stuff, but it starts in the evening. So we were there for the day going on rides, and we went to some of like the little small attractions. Shout out to Six Flags. The cabaret show they did was awesome. It was super cool. But we started leaving as the parade came by, and there was the spooky parade. You've got people on the trolley. It's on the tracks right there, and they're hanging off, loud music, and they've got like a hearse that's driving, and they've got all these scary people and chainsaws, and it's pretty legit. But that was moving towards all of where the haunted houses were. We were leaving the park, heading towards that direction. We just happened to walk to where the parade was passing us. So we stopped, we watched, and then right as the hearse drove by, the very back of the parade line, it was like 500 people were in a mob moving that direction, and security was keeping them behind the parade. But they were all just getting there, and they were slowed up because they were trying to get in line for these attractions, these haunted houses and stuff. And it blew my mind. I was like, dude, it really got my stomach twisted. I was like, ooh, this is creepy, because there's this mass group of people moving one direction. And it was like if one person would have started running, or if you'd have heard a yell or something, and then they started going, that'd have been a stampede, because I think we're so in trigger mode right now where it's like, oh shit, it's happening. What's going on? And people just take off. I saw a video today where there was like a CrossFit group that was jogging down the street, and they jogged past like a diner, like an outdoor area. And when they got past it, like people saw them running, and they kind of got up, and the closed circuit TV, people from the table started getting up, and then everybody from this whole area got up and just started running away. They all took off. And it's because they thought there was something that was going to happen that they were terrified of. So they started running. It's crazy. Dogs are getting worked up here. Yeah, Linda. Yeah, we know we were the drive-by shooting at Six Flags. We were talking about that when we got there, about why there was all these police presence out front. There was a bunch of police lights already on. It's like, what is happening here? Why are there so many police out there? So you guys, I'm looking at, yeah, there's the clip of what, hold on, like that, of the outburst from the gentleman. I would be curious to talk to the guy who gave the outburst in the courtroom. And there's so many things going on. There's the George Wagner, the fourth, day 31 of that trial. He was, he murdered back in 2006 8 members of the Roden and Gilly families. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's wild. But we're not doing that right now. That's for sure. As a matter of fact, I think that for the day, you guys, I think that we have exhausted ourselves, and we've done everything we need to do today to get it out. That being said, returning to court on Monday at 1 p.m. In between now and then, I'll be live between now and then, you guys. I'm not disappearing on you. I know you've been used to seeing me every day. Oh, okay. A journalist said the person who yelled out in court wouldn't give a comment and was visibly shaking and crying. Yeah. No, so sentencing isn't Monday. Court on Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time. Make sure to set up your notifications. Make sure to set notifications in Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of it, Twitter, the whole nine. But they're going to be doing next steps, and I believe that they should be giving us a date for when sentencing will be ready. They'll be sure to get the sentencing date, I believe, on Monday. The sentencing schedule is on Monday. So, yeah, Patty, I'm not going to bail on you guys. You're not going to have to go through any CJTV or CJ withdrawals here. And that's going to be a very emotional time because they're opening that up for not just in person but Zoom conferencing for the victims to have a chance to speak directly to Darrell Brooks. And if you've never seen any of these, Charles, you're very welcome. If you've never seen any of these victims panels when they're able to speak, it's gut wrenching. Like it's so hard for these because it's all of the buildup of everything gets to this point. And they finally get to say it, and it's like no matter how well rehearsed you've had it in your head, it's just the just raw emotion, and all you want to do is like this guy, yell "burn in hell, piece of shit." Now, if that's all you can get out, it's kind of like, that's all you can get out. But it's just a traffic jam of things I'm sure that people want to say. Into the hell are Heather Miller. I'm gonna, yeah. So set it up Monday at 1 p.m. We're gonna have the sentencing schedule come out with Judge Darrow. Between then and now, we are going to be doing some things this weekend, probably. Maybe something a little bit more lighthearted, kind of step us, which is stuff I've really wanted to do. Hopefully, if anybody in here is interested in coming on, hey, Patty B, thank you for the 3 years of devotion, riding it out with me here since the beginning. You're amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so the statements will be at sentencing. So Monday is not going to be that. Monday is just we're going to get ourselves ready for the next. She might say, "Hey, we're going to do sentencing tomorrow or on Friday." We don't know. We'll find out on Monday. But like I said, we're going to be doing hopefully some more lighthearted stuff. And as I was saying, if you yourself have a story you want to share, or have anything interesting, or know anybody that's got an interesting life story that wants to talk, email me, cj@cjtv.live. I'm going to put that in here again for you guys. So don't forget it. All right, cool. My email address, cj@cjtv.live. Shoot me an email. I've got a couple to check from earlier today, but I definitely want to talk to you. I'd be really interested if you've got anybody who's done a considerable amount of time in prison. I'd like to talk to them as well. And you've got family members or friends that are willing to come on and maybe share some stories, or just kind of talk to us about what Darrell Brooks has to look forward to here in the state of Wisconsin. So if anybody, and dig deep, if you know of anybody in Wisconsin who has done a considerable amount of time, let me know. Robin Shaw, it's funny you say the pumpkin farm, because I think that might be happening this weekend. Jerry Smith's, I think we might be going to Jerry Smith's this weekend. Doing a hello, hey, how you doing? Hopefully we'll maybe do the haunted house, which was terrifying. They did a great job out of Jerry Smith's. Big shout out to them. So yeah, if you know of anybody in the state of Wisconsin that has had an amount of time, and I say Wisconsin because I really specifically want to know how their structure is. Let me know. Email me or have them email me, cj@cjtv. It's not going to be a look at how bad you are. It's going to be not that at all. I want them to, if you talk to them, let them know. It's going to be an opportunity for them to kind of tell us their story. And it's not to prove anything. It's just because I want to hear what their take is on the inside of a state prison here in Wisconsin. So the judge said maybe sentencing will be on the 31st. Yeah, we did hear that. So we're looking at 5 days from now, possibly. It will be Halloween, and almost what better day for getting it all out, right? So I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this today and for the last 15 days. Again, I'm not disappearing on you. Set up notifications for when I go live. It's not going to be me in the chair every time. We're going to be out on the street talking to folks, doing what we do. If you're in Waukesha and, again, my heart and love goes out to you and all of our thoughts. You're amazing. The resilience, the camaraderie, the community was incredible to experience. And I really do appreciate you guys embracing me the way you have out here in Kenosha, in all the communities that I've been to. The community, have been so incredible. So boots on the ground. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to have some place to walk where I can be greeted with some friendly faces. Yeah. So I look forward to the next time I pop on here. I look forward to you being in here. The comments have been incredible. You guys are great. Mod Squad, you guys are incredible. As always, you've done an amazing job. I'm so glad that we're done for the most part with the trial of having to listen to this asshat just give us this forever will be the lasting impression that I have of Darrell Brooks. And the picture that I have of him hiding behind the screen, looking underneath his Bible, holding that up. But make sure to set notifications, guys. I'm going to see you guys all very soon. I might take a day off because these early mornings and 13-hour days are weighing on me. So thank you for the stars and for the memberships and the contributions and the subscriptions. We need we need to get more of those in. And I appreciate everyone who's made it a point to contribute. You're incredible. So between now and when I see you, you guys be good. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Love you. We'll talk soon.